प्रिये कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः।
Shri Krishna
कृष्ण
Chaitanya
चैतन्य
Prabhu
प्रभु
Nityananda
नित्यानंद
Shri
अद्वैत गदाधर
Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta
भक्त वृंद
Hare
हरे
Krishna
कृष्णा
Hare
हरे
Krishna
कृष्णा
Krishna Krishna
हरे
Hare Hare
हरे
Hare
हरे
Rama
राम हरे राम
Rama Hare Hare. So I believe we're up to text number 5. Does anybody know that for sure? That's what Jiva told me. Nobody has. What? Okay. So everyone can repeat after me. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
गौरव मैं छू नहीं सकती हूँ उसको फायर कुकिंग.
What? Anybody know what we're doing? 11, page 557. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha. Is everybody unmuted? Really? Well, Nanda Gopal's probably watching something else.
I'm here.
I don't hear you chanting.
Oh, I was muted.
Well, you muted yourself.
No, it took us a minute to unmute ourselves. When he says that, we get a little message saying unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. Didn't know what that meant exactly.
I'm here, don't worry.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Pasya me Partha Rupani.
Pashya me Partha Rupani.
Yatha Shota Sahasrashaha.
Shatashota Sahasrashaha.
Nana Vidani Divyani.
Nana Vidhani Divyani.
Nana Varna Kritini Cha.
Nana Varna Kritini cha.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Pasya me Partha Rupani.
Pashya me Partha Rupani.
Yatha Shota Sahasrashaha.
Shatashota Sahasrashaha.
Nana Vidani Divyani.
Nana Vidhani Divyani.
Nana Varna Kritini Cha.
Nana Varna Kritini cha.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Pasya me Partha Rupani.
Pashya me Partha Rupani.
Tata Shota Sahasrashaha.
Shatashota Sahasrashaha.
Nana Vidani Divyani.
Nana Vidhani Divyani.
Nana Vana Kritini Cha.
Nana Varna Kritini cha. Shri
Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Pashya me Partha Rupani.
Pashya me Partha Rupani.
Chatusta Saharashaha.
Satashota Sahasrashaha.
Nana Vidani Divyani.
Nana Vidhani Divyani.
Nana Varna Kriti Nicha.
Nana Varna Kritini cha. Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Pashya me Partha Rupani.
Pashya me Partha Rupani.
Shatashota Sahasrashaha. Nana Vidhani Divyani.
Nana Vidhani Divyani.
Nana Varna Kritini cha.
Nana Varna Kriti Nicha.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
पश्य मे पार्थ रूपाणि
Asya me Bharata Rupani
शतशोथा सहस्रशः
Shatashrota
Sahasrasha
Sahasrasha
नानाविधानि दिव्यानि
Nana
Nana Vidhani
Divyani
नानावर्णाकृतीनि च
Nana
Nana Varna
Kritini Cha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha,
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
the Supreme Personality of Godhead said,
the Supreme Personality of Godhead said,
Asya,
Pashya,
just see,
Just
see,
hey,
me,
my,
मा
Partha,
Partha,
son of Prita,
O
Osana
son of
Prita,
Prita,
Rupani,
Rupa,
Rupani,
forms,
Form,
Shatashaha,
Shatashaha,
hundreds,
hundreds,
Ata,
Ata,
so,
also,
Sahasrashaha,
Sahasrashaha,
thousands,
thousands,
Nana Vidani,
Nana
Nana
Vidhani,
variegated,
variegated,
Divyani,
Divyani,
divine,
divine,
Nana,
Nana,
variegated,
variegated,
Varna,
Varna,
colors,
colors,
Kritini,
Akritini,
forms,
forms,
Cha,
Cha,
also.
also.
Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjun, O son of Pita, see now my opulences, hundreds of thousands of very divine and multicolored forms. Report. You didn't mute everything yet, did you? Okay. Arjun wanted to see therefore subject to the temporary time of this material nature. As the material nature is manifested and not manifested, similarly, this universal form of Krishna is manifested and non-manifested. It is not eternally situated in the spiritual sky like Krishna's other forms. As far as the devotee is concerned, he is not eager to see the universal form. But because Arjuna wanted to see Krishna in this way, Krishna reveals this form, this form. This universal form is not possible to be seen by any ordinary man. Krishna must give one the power to see it. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharani Nivase Sasanyavadi Pastachade Satalani. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjun, O son of Prita, see now my opulences, hundreds of thousands of very divine and multicolored forms. So we can see that this is not the black and white image. This is the multicolored form image. So Arjuna wanted to see Krishna. This is something everyone should know. In his universal form, which although is a transcendental form, it's just manifested for the cosmic manifestation, is therefore subject to the temporary time of this material world. So the universal form is manifested only when the cosmic manifestation is there. It's not a form in the spiritual world, but yet it's transcendental. So if you could think of this form, you're thinking of the transcendental form of the Lord. Although in one sense, it's a mundane form, but it is transcendental. What was that? Oh, okay. As the material nature is manifested and not manifested, similarly, this universal form of Krishna is manifested and non-manifested. It is not eternally situated in the spiritual sky like Krishna's other forms. So as far as the devotee is concerned, he is not eager to see the universal form. Well, because Arjuna wanted to see Krishna in this way, Krishna reveals this form. So interesting. I mean, one of the reasons we know that Arjuna wanted to see this form is so that in the future, if somebody says that they're God, you can say, well, show me a universal form. But in the next sentence, it says that Krishna reveals this form. It says, as far as the devotees, not, yeah, but because Arjuna wanted to see it, Krishna revealed this form. This universal form is not possible to be seen by any ordinary man. Krishna must give one the power to see it. So even if you go to some bogus person and he knows this purport, and someone comes and says, show me a universal form, so you're not qualified to see it. They could say as a rascal, it says this universal form is not possible to be seen by any ordinary man. You're just an ordinary man, so you can't see it. But then it says Krishna must give one the power to see it. So if they're God, why don't you give me the power to see it? You're God, you can do anything. Anyway, I don't know how many people even know who are claiming to be God know about the universal form. Because there's so many people might think that they're God. So he's going to be explaining this universal form, but I think the main things we can get out of this particular verse is that this universal form is not an eternal form. It's manifested and unmanifested. It is not in the spiritual world. And generally, devotees are not really interested in seeing it. They want to see Krishna in his two-armed form, or other devotees want to see Vishnu or Narayan in his four-armed form, but they're not interested in seeing this universal form. And you have to have the eyes to even see the universal form. You can't be just an ordinary person. But Krishna can give you the power to see this form as he did with Arjuna. So does anyone have any questions? Let's start with questions first. Not comments, questions. You got to unmute everybody. Okay, some people are muted. I guess they muted themselves. Okay. Okay, nobody has any questions. Next, anyone have any comments? Okay.
I have a question actually. So if you ask some bogus person to show you universal form, he might say like, you're not qualified to see it or something like that.
That's exactly what I just said.
Oh.
Anybody else? But I did say, if he says that, you can say to him, but if you're God, you can give me the eyes to see it. That's what happened here. It says, where did I go back a page? Where am I going?
Text 5.
Oh. Yeah, Krishna says, this universal form is not possible to be seen by an ordinary man. Krishna must give one the power to see it. So you can give me the power to see it if you're God, but I don't want to. Why not? How about if I punch you in the face? Would you give me the power then? These people who are claiming to be God can't. I mean, if someone claims to be God, you can just ask them some simple questions like, if someone claimed to be the strongest man in the world, you're not going to just accept that he's the strongest man in the world, unless he did something nobody else can possibly do. So if you're claiming to be God, you're a lot more than the strongest man in the world. Then do something to show me, not just some simple, stupid magic trick that other people can also do who have some skills, but something that nobody can do. Otherwise, why would I accept your God? Because you have a bunch of people claiming you're God. That's not enough to accept that you're God. It's not, God isn't God by popular vote. God is God eternally, whether you vote for him or not.
Is it common for people to pretend to be God? I just don't hear it often happening.
Let me just finish, okay, before you interrupt. So if they're claiming to be God, then they have to show some reason, somehow, how they're God. If they can't show any way that they're God, then only a foolish person would accept them as God. Okay, now what was your question?
I'm sorry for my rudeness. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just didn't realize that people did this. And I was asking, is it common for people to say that they're God?
Well, in India, there's more gods than in America. But in the hippie days, a lot of people thought they were God. It was mainly, I think, because of the drugs somehow or other. I don't know. I can't say for sure why. But there were, I think, a lot more gods years ago than there are today.
Thank you for the explanation. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, but they're not God. They're an illusion. It says it's the last snare of Maya. Like we're in Maya, we're in illusion. But the last snare of this illusion is to think that you're God. So because you're, I don't know why you come to that. I can give you some reasons why. One is you can actually come to some realization that everything is one. What's the difference between me, my body, this table, the outside world, my relatives? It's all one. Why should I see one person different than I see another person? It's all one. So when they see it's all one, and I'm part of this all oneness, then I must be God. The oneness is there in one aspect of the absolute truth. So because they think that way, they think I'm everything, I'm everywhere, so I must be God. It's an illusion, but it can come, some people may actually genuinely believe it because of some realization they've had. Then there are others who are just cheaters, just claiming it so they can get followers. But in either case, even the person who's, let's just say, sincerely in his illusion, thinking that he's God, he can be spoken to, he can be talked to and explained to how he's not God. And if he's sincere, he'll accept it. But some people are just rascals. It's like somebody who's sleeping. You can wake them up, you can call them, and you can shake them, get up, and you wake them up. But if someone's pretending to be sleeping, you can't wake them up. Just, maybe you had some kids that didn't want to go to school and try to wake them up and they just can't get them up. So you let them stay home. At least that's what I did when I was going to school. Okay.
But I have another question.
What's
So
that?
in India, there are really two kinds of people. I mean, one who is a bogus person who pretends to be God and cheats people. He has some siddhis, that he can impress people with. And that makes people, not so intelligent people think he's God, because he is doing some miracles with his siddhis. And then there are some genuinely impersonalistic people who are kind of trying to reach Brahman realization and kind of reaching that oneness with God. So they are not necessarily bogus.
I don't know if they claim to be God.
Yes, yeah. And their example always given is like, you're a drop of the ocean, and the moment you feel that you're merging with the ocean, then you become one with the ocean, so you become one with God, and in that sense you become God, one as God, one with God is as, that means you become God too.
Well, I guess we're all God.
I mean, I never bought that explanation, but that's an explanation they always give.
The drop is still a drop. The ocean is made up of drops of water. You can look at it that way. And if you look at the drop, that's what we actually are. We're like a drop from the compared to the ocean, but we don't become the ocean. The drop doesn't become the ocean. Wow, how did I do that? Now I'll get back at that guy.
Yeah, qualitatively it's one with the ocean, but
Yes.
quantitatively it's not. Yes.
Yes. Yes. And okay, how does God forget he's God?
That was the best premise that made me realize that's not true. Because God doesn't forget he's God.
What's the meaning of God?
I mean, God, Krishna knows he's God from when he's a baby. He doesn't forget that he's God. He always knew he's God. He killed his big demon as a little tiny baby, a witch with poison on her breast, who kills children for a living. And what kind of God is he? After he kills her, because she offered her breast milk, he gives her liberation as one of his mothers in the spiritual world. That's God. You know, I'm God, but I forgot I'm God. I'm trying to remember. I'm a really old God. My memory's gone.
They'll say it's Leela.
What?
They'll say it's Leela.
Yeah, Jiva said they'll say it's Leela. What kind of Leela is that I become a dog?
What's the meaning of God?
Yeah.
No one equal to or greater
Right.
than.
Jiva said, what's the meaning of God? No one is equal to or greater than. And even if you are God, okay, then what can you do? What's the meaning of God? You don't have any greatness. You're not any greater than me. God gets punched in the face. God gets toothaches. God gets pies in the face. These are some different incarnations of God. People who claimed God in the past, who had a lot of followers. One got a pie in the face. Another one had a toothache. What kind of God? Got to go to the dentist because your tooth it's giving you a problem.
But the Bhagavad Gita itself says that Brahman realization is a bona fide path one can take. It's not the best, you know.
No, it's yeah, I don't know. See, anyway, I never met a real genuine Mayavadi or impersonalist who really thought he was God. Following a tradition. I met many gods, people who think they're God, Westerners, but they're not following anything. They just think it, and I think they think it is because they come to some realization that everything is one.
No, I have spoken to some real impersonalist Mayavadis who are genuinely on that path.
They're God.
No, they're not. They don't say they're God, but they want Brahman realization with.
Yes,
they want to merge with Brahman.
That's different. That is genuine, but I don't think they come to the point where now I'm God. That's what another thing we do with people who claim to be God is you're God and I'm God. So give me all your money. You still have it. It's all one. If I have the money in my pocket, or if you have it in your pocket, it doesn't make a difference.
So you're saying Brahman wanting Brahman realization is not the last name of Maya.
It's not what?
Is not the last snare of Maya.
No, the last snare of Maya is thinking you're God. I'm not sure. I really don't know if the Mayavadis think they are God now. I think they may think that they're one with everything, but I don't think they claim that they're God.
No, they don't.
But there are people who claim they're God.
But they think everything is Brahman.
Yeah,
Right.
everything is Brahman. It
Right.
is. Everything is. It's not false.
But they think that deity worship is like a way to Brahman, and that I find that
a lot of things wrong. But to think that everything is Brahman is one aspect of the absolute. It's not the complete picture, but it's true.
But a lot of them diminish the form of Krishna.
I don't know what you said because I was talking and you were talking. So what did you say?
Some of them diminish the form of God and think
Yeah,
Brahman is higher than the form.
Prabhupada said they're most simple. They say God has no hands, God has no eyes. God is blind, deaf, dumb. Because they just think he's an energy or a force. He's not a person. So they're
Right.
offensive. They're definitely offensive.
Yeah, I find it very offensive to listen to those lectures, and I've listened to a few of them and just had to get out of there.
They don't say anything. Sounds nice. It doesn't. They don't say
Oh, it
anything
sounds very nice, the way they sound, and a lot of people are attracted to it.
because they're not listening. If you really listen, it doesn't make sense.
I agree.
Guruji, but in the 9th chapter, in the 17th verse, Prabhupada writes in the purport that
Can you talk louder?
yeah, in the 9th chapter, in the 17th verse, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport. So this is the verse Pitahamasya Jagato Mata Dhata Pitamaha, 9.17. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. So here Prabhupada writes that as such, these living entities who appear to be our father, mother, etc., are nothing but Krishna. So I think in this sense, what he means is, because we are part and particles of Krishna, we are also in one sense Krishna, but because we are just a minuscule part. So in that sense,
Well, Prabhupada said we are like sample gods.
okay.
So, we have the same quality, just not the same quantity. Just like the drop from the ocean. It's the same quality as the ocean, but it's the big difference in quantity. So we're like the drop. We're a little tiny fragmental part and parcel. We're like a spark from the fire. Spark is still fire, but it's insignificant compared to the fire. And the spark can die out. So we do have the same quality, but they just miss the quantity part. So once they see we have the same quality, they think that they are God. We're spirit soul, we're eternal, we're full of knowledge, we're full of bliss. So what else is full of knowledge and full of bliss and eternal? God. I must be God. It's Maya, it's an illusion.
So what is the relationship of the sample God with God?
He's a servant, he's a part. A part of the body serves the body. Part of God serves God. And then that part is full of knowledge and bliss by rendering service. Not have people serving him or them. Of course, the representative of God, you'd serve the representative of God also, because he's the representative, just like a diplomat goes from to another country. They treat him like as if he's the president. He's not the president, but he's representing the president. So they may throw shoes at him. In our case.
Good example.
But there, so when the representative of God comes, you treat him as you would God. And God's pleased because he's representing God. And it's not that he's looking for this. He considers himself a servant of all the other classes. He considers himself the lowest. This is the real pure devotee. So he's not looking for people to serve him, but he accepts the service on behalf of his guru and on behalf of his guru and ultimately on behalf of Krishna. And he doesn't just accept the service without giving back, or maybe he originally gave first, but there's reciprocation. He does something for you, you want to do something for him. So he gives Krishna. There's no more valuable thing than that. So if somebody gives you the most valuable thing in the world, you'd want to do something for them. If you're any kind of, except for someone who's completely heartless, you want to reciprocate. But they don't accept that service for them. They accepted on behalf of Krishna. So in this universal form, we can see that this is one of the things that God, if you ask nicely, he can show you. Krishna must give one the power to see it. He can give you the power. But the devotees are not interested in it. Why do I need to see it? I accept you. I don't need to see this form to accept you. Some people may have to see this form. If you have some bogus person, you're not going to just accept him. But if he shows you the form, say, well, I'm sorry, I guess I made a mistake. But there's nobody that can show you that form now except for God. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, I'm going to read another verse then. Very short purport. I don't even know what the verse is, but I'll read it. We'll just do the Sanskrit. I'll just chant it once. You can repeat, and then we'll read the verse. Pasya dityan vasun rudran
Pashyati Yanan Vasun Rudran
asvino marutata
Ashvin Utastata
bahunyadrista purvani
Bahunya Adashta Purvani
pasyas charyani bharata.
Pasyacharyani Bharata.
O best of the Bharatas, see here the different manifestations of Adityas, Vasus, Rudras, Asvini Kumaras, and all the other demigods. Behold the many wonderful things which no one has ever seen or heard of before. Purport. Even though Arjuna was a personal friend of Krishna and the most advanced of learned men, it was still not possible for him to know everything about Krishna. Here it is stated that humans have neither heard nor known of all these forms and manifestations. Now Krishna reveals these wonderful forms. Translation again, O best of the Bharatas, see here the different manifestations of Adityas, Vasus, Rudras, Asvini Kumaras, and all the other demigods. Behold the many wonderful things which no one has ever seen or heard of before. So, I mean, even seen or heard of before, you may have seen or heard of one of these. For us, we may have heard of something, but heard of them all or seen them all, no one has done that. And especially all at the same place, all at the same time. So he's revealing it. So that in itself is pretty scary, you know, when you're going to see everything all at once. And it was scary even for Arjuna. So you can imagine what we would be like. So here he's showing a lot of the different demigods. They're all part of the universal form of the Lord. Okay, let me see if there's any questions or comments. I think this is kind of pretty straightforward verses.
Prabhu, if I can, I don't know what are Adityas, Vasus, Rudras, or Ashwini Kumaras. Can you help me understand, like, who are Ashwini Kumaras?
The four Kumaras, Sanat, Sanatan, Sanandana, and who's the other Kumara?
You said Sanat?
I said Sanat.
That's fine. The names are fine. I just did not. Okay, this is fine. And what about Vasus? I'm assuming Rudras. Is Shiva considered Rudras?
Okay, Shiva doesn't think it's the Asvini Kumaras are those four Kumaras.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know who they are. Rudras, there's different Rudras are different expansions of Shiva.
Okay.
Vasus. What are there? 8 Vasus? I think there's 8 of them.
Prabhu, I read online that Ashwini Kumaras are the sons of sun god.
Okay.
Then what about Adityas? Aditya is also sun god?
No, I should Google that also. Wait.
No, wait, Ashwini Kumaras are not the son of sun gods.
I think Adityas are the sons of Aditi. I think.
And the Daityas are the sons of Deity.
Where does it say Daityas?
It doesn't.
Yeah, I know that. Okay. They're not demigods. We're reading about the demigods here.
That's fine, Prabhuji. I'll look it up.
Huh?
I'll try to look it up. That's fine.
Guruji, there are two Ashwini Kumaras actually. The two are like physicians of the demigods. So if you remember in Mahabharata, the two Pandavas are the sons of Ashwini Kumaras. The
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Nakul and Sahadev are the sons of the two Ashwini Kumaras. And then the Vasus there are 8 Vasus, as you rightly said. So there are like assistant to the demigods.
What?
The Vasus are the assistants to the demigods.
Assistants.
And Adityas, as you rightly said, they are the sons of Aditi.
Yeah, can you make it louder? Can you mute everyone else except for Ganapati Govind because there's noises and I.
So Adityas, as you rightly said, they are sons of Aditi. So Aditi and Aditi were the two wives of missing the name of their father. So from Aditi came the demigods, and from Diti came the Daityas. So Daityas and Adityas. So all the demigods actually are considered the sons of Aditi. That therefore they're also called as Adityas.
Right. And the Daityas are the sons of Diti.
Diti, yeah.
They're sisters.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Do you know more about the 8 Vasus? Because I know I heard of the 8 Vasus and I don't remember from where. Who were the ones who was Bhishma? Was he one of the Vasus?
Bhishma was a Vasu named Dev in his past life.
What?
So he was a Vasu named Dev. So he was the leader of all the Vasus, and he was cursed to take birth on the
Yeah,
earth.
they were all cursed, but all of them said they wanted to die right away so they can go back. And that's why
Correct.
they threw them in the water and killed them.
That is right. So
But the
actually,
last one, Bhishma, Devarata. His name's Devarata, I think.
Devavrat was his name earlier.
Huh?
Devavrat.
Devarata, yeah.
But when he was a Vasu at that time, his name was Dev.
Just plain Dave?
Dev.
Dave.
That was his name. Dev. Yeah.
Yes. But then he became Bhishma when he took this vow never to marry. And it was such a terrible vow for a king. But he did it.
And the Vasus also represent the 8 elements or something, it says in the Wikipedia.
Oh,
Is
I
that
don't know.
true? Like
I
this.
don't know. Maybe. But I wouldn't just accept Wikipedia.
I know that many of the gods have associations. Some of them have associations with directions of like the compass, and I don't know which is which, but I know even some of them have planet associations.
Yeah, some are demigods for different planets, yeah. Yeah, Surya, Chandra, Moon, Sun. And the god of heaven, Indra, he's got all the heavenly planets. Okay. We don't have too much time. We don't have a letter.
Yeah, the Vasus, it says they are attendant deities to Indra.
Oh, the Vasus, okay.
Yeah, Vasus. And they are like Aap, which is water, Dhruva, which is Nakshatra, the pole star, and Soma is moon, Dhara is earth, Anala is fire, Anila is Vayu or air, Pratyush is Surya or sun,
So
and
one is the
Prabhash.
sun, one is the moon, and then there's the five elements, I guess. Well, more than five. Six? I don't know. What are they?
I think it's elements is water, air, fire, ether.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Anyway, as you can tell, I didn't have time. Well, maybe you don't know I didn't have time, but I didn't read this previously to just now. Or I probably could have done a little research and found out a little more about it. But they're different demigods, and he's seeing them all at the same time.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. So anyone
Hare
else?
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Haribol.
Related to merging in the Brahman, our Acharya has been described that it is like a merging, like a green color parrot merging to the green colored tree. So there is not losing the identity. It means that has been hidden, that green parrot, and into the green tree. So it means there is not losing the identity. Is it not like a becoming the one? And second thing is merging river into the ocean. So there lot of aquatic animals are there. If river is merging into the ocean, then still those aquatic animals, they are not merging into the ocean. They are not losing their identity. So that has been described. And then also Srila Prabhupada, he has mentioned about the God that you mentioned, that simple God. So introduction of the Bhagavad Gita sections during the 5 topics in the Jiva, he has been described that we are the minute God and subordinate to the God. So these 2 points I wanted to mention.
Yeah, but he did say that merging into Brahman, it's like spiritual suicide. It's giving up your identity. So the examples that you gave are true, but I don't think they're true to just explain this. They're explaining what's really happening. You're just thinking that the parrot in the tree may think, I mean, that's insane for it to think it's a tree, but that's what people do. They actually think they're one with everything, and they become part of the Brahmani effulgence, and they give up their individuality. They actually give up their individuality. It's compared to spiritual suicide. So that's also there. It's not like everybody who's merged sees that they're an individual and they're just a whole bunch of individuals that are identical to them all around them. No, they actually just become this light or this energy. They don't become it because you can't become it, but you can certainly become it for a while, maybe billions and trillions of years. But eventually the soul will desire, and then you fall back down to the material world when you do desire. So why even, I mean, it's one of the aspects of the absolute truth. So it's certainly better, even merging in Brahman, as far as happiness is concerned and pleasure is concerned, is better than this material world. But as far as devotees, they'd rather stay in the material world because as a devotee, can you mute people again? Because as a devotee, I can serve Krishna. And in the Brahman effulgence, I cannot serve Krishna. So I'd rather be here in this material world. because that serving Krishna is more important to me than anything else. I mean, that's how a devotee should be thinking. So we definitely, the 5 kinds of liberation, the devotee will never stop merging in the effulgence of the Lord. So anyway, anyone else have a comment or question?
I just think it's very interesting because we've forfeited our interest in comfort and prioritized our interest in service to God. And I think it's a very beautiful thing because it describes that the person who is worshiping God as their spirit, as their master in all ways, they're seeing that it's so much more beautiful to serve him and have the ability to send love to him than to be comfortable in some heavenly location. It feels so much more constructive to just constantly be sending as much as we can to him.
Yes, it's also better to be serving him than to try to be him or to think that you are him. You obtain much more happiness and bliss by serving him, because by serving him, he's pleased. And because we're part and parcel of him, when we please him, we automatically become pleased. And he's a person, and because he's a person, he has feelings. We have feelings because he has feelings.
And when you're serving him, there is reciprocation also.
That's what I'm getting at. Thank you. Because he's a person. That's the point. Because he's a person, he reciprocates. Because he's a person, he helps us. Because he's a person, even if we may not be completely qualified to go back to the spiritual world, he may let us come back anyway. We don't count on that, but it's he is a person, and he knows if we're doing the best we can be.
I feel like if I was God, I'd be very lonely because who would I send love to? It's like for someone who's saying they're God, I feel like that would be a very lonely life to say, who else is up? Who else can I look up to? How else can I grow? If I've already become infinity, then how else do I grow? I feel like that would be misery.
Yeah, but because you might feel like that as God, Krishna doesn't feel like that. If you artificially become God, you'll feel like that. But if you're genuinely God, he doesn't feel like that because he has billions and trillions of devotees that he's with all the time. And he doesn't even take the position of God. He just takes a position of an equal, or sometimes maybe a superior because he has a servant, sometimes an equal, or sometimes even an inferior position to the devotee. And he enjoys that so much. But we're not right now. Our love for Krishna and the way we serve Krishna is more with awe and reverence than I am a gopi or I'm a cowherd boy and I play with Krishna or I love Krishna. We can't think that way because that's an extremely advanced position. But we're servants of God. Everyone is a servant of God. Even the cowherd boys are servants of God. Even the gopis are servants of God. But they don't see themselves as I'm a servant of God because they don't see Krishna as God. They just see him as this boy that they can't stop thinking about. Or the cowherd boys, he's like their best friend. They just want to play with him. He's so much fun. They don't see him as God. And even once in a while, like Mother Jashoda saw Krishna as God. And then the next moment, Yoga Maya expanded, and then she just saw him as her son and put him on her lap and fed him her breast milk. So this position of God is different than we can understand it. But when we try to become God, it's certainly not, it can be a very lonely place. I was there once.
You have first-hand experience
of being God.
Prabhu, if I may ask, sorry if I'm being devil's advocate, but if that was the case, why did Krishna even expand himself? No, if he was self-satisfied, why to have the expansion? Because after the first expansion, devotees were created in Krishna Loka. But if everything was fine, why to even think about expanding?
Well, I think this is something because all these expansions are there eternally. It says, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So then you can get back into, well, where did Krishna come from? And we can't possibly know where Krishna came from, at least now. And then when you get to the spiritual world, if you want to ask that question again, you may wind up right back here again.
Yes, we have learned our lesson.
But we don't know. And why would you care? If you're drowning and you know that there's air right up there, you just want to get to the air. What's beyond Krishna? Who cares? Let's get back to Krishna. Then if we want to ask that question, we can see. No, I don't think there was a time, that there was just Krishna sitting around. Where did he come from? Well, we don't know. And then all of a sudden he thinks, well, let me make some creation because I'm a little bored. It's like it's inconceivable. First, we have to understand how tiny, limited brain we have. And you can't understand even things that are a little bit different. Like another dimension is impossible to conceive of. So to conceive of God and how he's eternal and how he created all of us, but yet we lived all the time, we're all always existing. And Prabhupada stresses in that verse, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor would any of us cease to, in the future, shall any of us cease to be. So Prabhupada said he's stressing eternity, individuality, in the past, in the present, and in the future. So you can't ever think of when. It just, you can't conceive of it. You have to see that there's certain things you can never conceive of and accept it.
So the
I accept. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay.
There's one chapter Sloki verse where he talks to Brahma and he says, "The beginning was I."
Yeah, well, you can get that, yeah, the book.
I believe that's like material creation. He talks about spiritual.
So everyone else afraid to ask a question?
No, his bliss is also ever increasing. That's why it's always also ever expanding, correct?
Well, it's ever increasing. I don't know how things are
It's gotta go
expanding.
somewhere.
It's increasing, it's expanding, and it's beautiful.
No, but I heard that, Nanda Gopal asked the question about the expansion. I heard that these expansions can be ever increasing. Isn't that also true?
Yeah, expansions of Krishna, sure. When you say increasing, when we think of increasing, we think of putting on weight.
No, what I mean is not even his equal expansions. I'm talking about his jiva expansions.
We can only come up to a certain platform, like 78% or 70%.
No. What I mean is, don't jivas expand from him ever increasingly in his ever increasing bliss to serve him?
Well, they can be, because there's a verse in the Isha Upanishad, Om Punam Araha Punamidam Punasya Punamadaya Punabheva Vashishyate. Personality of God, it is perfect and complete. And because he's completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. And even though so many complete units emanate from the complete whole, he still remains a complete balance. basically things keep coming from him and he still doesn't lose anything. Prabhupada said spiritual mathematics, 1 plus 1 equals 1. 1 minus 1 equals 1. 1 times 1.
We got the picture.
Well, I think the picture is you can't get it.
That's true. That's true.
That's it. And you just have to accept it. There's certain things you can understand, certain things you really can't. But there are some analogies to help us to understand it.
Yes.
Okay. So let us offer our respectful obeisances to all devotees of the Lord, who just like desire trees, fulfilling the desires of everyone.
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna.
Hare.
Jai.
Hare. Srila
Thank
Prabhupada.
you all very much for coming.